In today's episode, we're going to scaffold out a new resource under companies, the lead. The lead represents someone who is interested in your product for your company and wants to learn more. Leads are going to be assigned to a user in that company. We want to make sure that a user can only see the leads to which they are assigned. Let's get to scaffolding things out. We're going to start scaffolding out leads by giving it an attribute of name as a string, assignable as a reference, and company as it belongs to. We're going to follow the same pattern we did yesterday of looking over the migration, the model, and the specs. I'm changing the migration to only create an index instead of a foreign key because I hate foreign keys because they break development. This is probably a bad pattern, but I don't really care. Next, we're going to order leads by the name ascending. As far as the factory is concerned, there's a little bit of change because we need to make sure that the person assigned to this lead has the same company as this lead. We wouldn't want to be able to assign a user to a lead to a company that lead doesn't belong to. I'm also adding some basic validations to make sure that the company is required, that the lead has a name that's unique, that doesn't care about case, and that the uniqueness of that name is scoped to the company. So two companies could both have a John Smith, but a single company couldn't have two John Smiths. I've now gone ahead and migrated both development and test databases. Let's see if the specs will run. The output we get is a failure because lead doesn't know what an assignable is. There's no class called assignable. Let's go ahead and fill in that information now. And then we'll run it again. Okay, so a few adjustments later, I need to scope the uniqueness of the name to the company ID, just like we did for roles. In addition, I need to make sure that I pass in the companies for the specs. And just like with the roles controller yesterday, I'm creating a company, and now I'm creating assignable, which is a user that belongs to that company, and then merging in those attributes into the parameters which will be passed into the controller spec. So now if I run the specs, again, they should all pass. Again, I'm going to nest the leads route underneath the companies route. I'm going to make the same changes as I did with roles yesterday. I'm just going to do it off camera because it's already been shown. With all those edits in place, everything is now set up. I can see the leads for Phoenix Fire Development, and if I flip over to this tab, I'll see the leads for Blackwing Development. Notice how they don't cross namespaces, so everything's working properly. Okay, so for our last step, what if we wanted to take this index full of leads for a company and be able to filter it by the person to whom it was assigned, like so? Or if we wanted to show all assignables, how might we accomplish that? So back at the company leads index, what I've done is I've gone ahead and changed content for toolbar over to content for sidebar. I removed the .toolbar div and then moved everything over, and now I've added this section here for rendering a partial called leads/filters. Inside leads filters, you'll see this simple search form, which doesn't actually post anywhere. It just gets simple form to create a form that we can tie a JavaScript event off to. You'll notice that the name of the input is assignable. The collection that we're passing in is a list of the company users, and we want the values for the select to be name subname, not name sub ID, because we wouldn't want to expose user IDs in a form. Okay, so data tables exposes a way that we can pass in a callback from init complete, where we can reference the API for data tables to get this assignable column. And then with this little bit of magic code, we're binding a change handler to the dropdown so that when the value of that changes, it will search the data table, and then data tables will automatically filter out the input. Let's see it again. We've also limited the collection of this user assignable input to users who belong to this company. As it currently stands, the output of this app is what I would like to call a master backend. This is something that companies would use to manage all of their clients. If I was an individual tenant logging into this app, what would I want to see? Obviously, I wouldn't want to see resources for a different company. What about a user when they log in? Should they be able to see other users? Should they be able to see other users' leads? No. In the upcoming episodes of this series, we're going to integrate this tool I've been talking about named Jack. The DSL file that we're looking at here defines how to set up permissions for a multi-tenant setup and how to restrict certain resources to individual users. With the DSL, you define several namespaces. These namespaces can represent a set of permissions for a specific user or various other attributes. Inside our custom ability.rb file, which we would normally have in CanCan, you'll notice now that ability inherits from some of the Jack superclasses, allowing us to get the integrations that we want. Inside here, we can yield to certain namespaces which were defined inside the DSL. This allows us to define several namespaces for specific things without crossing over. For example, I could define a namespace for permissions that belong to a specific user. I could define another namespace that defines how they work with resources in their team, and so forth. As always, we can still maintain standard static permissions inside the ability file as well if we want to. I hope you'll stick with me into this next episode, as we'll be integrating Jack into this application. Thanks for watching.